Welcome to Voice at Heart, a podcast where we discuss a wide range of topics. I am your host, Kennedy, and I'm going to introduce you to the podcast, introduce you to myself, the reason I started, talk a little bit about growth, and we'll go over the different segments of the podcast. And I'll end this episode with a quote. The idea of starting a podcast came last year when my lecturer asked me to think about 3 projects I wanted to start while I was at home during our long vacation. I presented him with 3 ideas. One was to start a YouTube channel on coding. The second one was a podcast. And the third one was to build a multi-vendor e-commerce website for people to sell on, because there are a lot of people selling on their status. So I am a backend developer. I work with Django, and also I'm a computer vision person. So developing an e-commerce website was not going to be difficult at all. But then starting a YouTube channel, I knew I needed some equipment before I could start. And a podcast seemed like something I could start right away, because already I'm passionate about social issues, be it local or international issues. But then for months, I didn't start because of excuses. I kept giving excuses to myself as to why I haven't started. And then I realized that giving excuses was much easier than actually starting. Secondly, I realized that I was afraid of starting, and I didn't even know what I was afraid of. This gave me a new appreciation for people who have started things on their own, because starting is not easy. One of the excuses I used to give was telling myself that I didn't have the tools needed to start a podcast, like the microphone, the stand, and the rest. I could have bought them, but then having those things as an excuse, felt better. But then I asked myself that how long was I going to lie to myself? So I decided to push, and then here I am today, starting Voice at Heart. So the podcast would be divided into 5 segments. We would have the government grid. Now, we are a democratic country, and there are a lot of political issues in the media every day. Governance grid would help explain the issues very well with facts and figures, void of any insulting language, and leave you to decide on them. Because right now, everybody is so polarized on any political issues, and then they let their feelings, take a better part of them, and then they don't listen to hear whether this is true or not. Second segment of this podcast will have a social sphere. This is where we are going to talk about everyday issues, everyday social issues like political and celebrity news, the welfare for the people, and anything that is in relation to corporate social responsibility. We will talk about it. And then we have the tech terrain. So I'm a tech person, so it wouldn't be fair if I don't talk about it. On this segment, we'll discuss tech trends, we'll review tech products, and then we will explore artificial intelligence, since right now is the talk of the day. Again, this segment will also teach you how to branch into tech if you are planning on doing that. Then we have the book banter segment. As the saying goes, a reader lives 1,000 lives before he dies. The man who never reads lives only once, by George Martin. So in the book banter segment, we're going to review the books I'm going to be reading chapter by chapter, and then we'll go over the lessons, we'll learn the lessons, and then we can grow together. Then the last segment is voices and views. I got creative with the names of this segment. So voices and views segment, I believe that everybody needs to be heard. Everybody has a story. So in voices and views, we're going to talk to people. We're going to hear their stories. We're going to learn lessons from what they have been through, and then it's going to at least teach us a lesson, motivate us, or even help us in our own small way. For somebody has a solution for what you will be going through. And I think that wraps up the 5 different segments that we'll be having on this podcast. We'll have the government grid, the social sphere, the tech terrain, the book banter, and then voices and views. So yeah, like I said, so I'm going to talk about growth. Now let's talk about growth, right? I believe that we are in a society where it doesn't allow for people to grow. For instance, if on Monday I say iOS is better than Android, and a few days later I change my mind and say Android is better than iOS, some people would call me a liar because they heard me say a contradictory statement on Monday. Okay, my point here is that these people do not take into consideration that we grow every day, and maybe, just maybe, I may have been exposed to a new information which is making me say that Android is better when last week I said it was iOS. Okay, so again, imagine that you tell your friend that you are vegetarian because you believe it's healthier and it's better for the environment. A month later, they see you eating chicken, meat, anything chicken, right? And then they begin to question your integrity, and then they start accusing you of being inconsistent and then dishonest. Okay, in reality, right, during that month you may have been exposed to new information or experiences that have influenced the change. Perhaps you had read a scientific research suggesting that a balanced diet includes meat and can be beneficial, or maybe you found that your body wasn't responding well to the vegetarian diet. Your decision to eat meat now reflects your growth and the fact that you have adapted to the new knowledge and circumstance, rather than the lack of honesty or they accusing you of being inconsistent, right? Yeah, so this example highlights how society can be quick to label change in beliefs or behavior as hypocrisy, right? Rather than recognizing them as part of natural growth process and learning. I believe we should let people grow. People lie. Yeah, we understand that people lie. But when you give it context, you might see that it's actually not a lie, but then it's growth. 5 years from now, we might be discussing different issues on this podcast. It doesn't mean I was indecisive on this first episode. It just means I grew. So, with that being said, I'm going to end this episode with a quote. And the quote goes like this: life is growth. If we are growing technically and spiritually, we are as good as dead. Life is good. If we stop growing technically and spiritually, we are as good as dead. Thank you.